So here's a few time structuring strategies that you might use if you're struggling with time blindness. Kind of a go-to that you'll hear a lot is time blocking, where you're blocking off certain amounts of time for specific things. Time blocking works for most people. Most of us have spent a lot of our lives utilizing time blocking, whether we've known it or not. So time blocking is something that you can use. Pomodoro specifically, 25 minutes, 5-minute break. If you're not in a space where you can just hyper focus and let yourself just keep going with whatever it is you're working on. Along with that, try to give yourself buffer time. Something I notice with a lot of folks, even if they don't have any time blindness concerns, is that when we set a schedule or create a calendar, we go right from one thing into the next. And that's not realistic. That's not the way we function. That's not the way we work. Most of the time we need a little bit of a buffer in between, a transition time to go from one thing to the next thing. Some of us need big transition times. Some of us need shorter transition times. You know you better than anyone else, most likely. So make sure you're including a transition time or a buffer time in so that you're not rushing and or running behind just because, you didn't give yourself enough time to get from one thing to the next thing. You might also include buffer time in your tasks. So say, for example, you time blocked an hour to work on something, but you struggle with time blindness. So in your head, you think this is going to take an hour. In reality, it might take 2. So based on your previous experiences with yourself, you might opt to just tack on additional time at the end of your time block to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to complete the task. So consider that as well. If you tend to underestimate how long things take, just make it part of your process to add a little bit more time in so that you are giving yourself sufficient time. Of course, if you're doing time blocking or Pomodoros as well, make sure that you've broken the task down into something manageable. Something that can really slow us down and make things more challenging than they need to be is that we haven't given ourselves time to actually plan what we're going to do. So we sit down to work on this thing and it's this huge, big, thing we have to work through. And now we're spending that time trying to figure out what to do instead of actually doing something. So planning ahead of time, is something that needs to be done. And you may need to set time aside to plan and break down your goal or your task into something that's much more manageable so that when you do get to your time block or your Pomodoro, you know what you're doing, you can jump into it and you can get going.